How about another little revolver that is very interesting in terms of its mechanical history, and yet not very widespread in its military history. This is what many people would call the Raphael. However, it's actually patented to a team of men known as Pedot and Corday, if I'm pronouncing that correctly at all. The revolver is very interesting for being an early triple-action firearm, in that it is both double, boom, and single action. The mechanism inside is actually quite modern, and we can see it on the patent pretty well, so I don't necessarily have to take this gun apart to show you. The reason I'm putting it in front of you right now, though, is because of something more interesting that has to do with the rotation of the cylinder and the breech. That's because the Pedot Cordair is a very early Centerfire pistol, so much so that the primer at the rear was not even exposed. It was still covered by the metallic casing. Now, early cartridges, full metallic cartridges, had problems with swelling. Essentially, the metallurgy, the powder, the balance was not such that people understood quite how to keep them from swelling, especially at the back. This was especially problematic for something like a revolver, where you need the cylinder to be able to keep rotating. Pedot Cordair solved this by having the breech rotate with the cylinder, and yet this is still a breech-loading pistol. How was that accomplished? Well, let's take a look at the beautiful back end of this thing. Looking at the rear, it's not immediately obvious how the cartridges are supposed to enter this pistol. Instead, we're sealed up, mostly. There's a hole through each chamber so that the firing pin can do its job. And in addition, there's an extra hole here. Why is that? Well, that's because this pistol does not have a half-cock position for safety. It is only full cock or hammered down. So if you'd like to put the Pedot Cordair on safe, you will have to, pardon my view, pull back the hammer, index that hole to position, and then ease the hammer into the hole. With that firing pin there, this guy is now safe, at least until you pull the trigger. It does not lock out the trigger, and it actually has a fairly light double action, believe it or not. Now, the other reason to put it in this position is so that you can load and unload the pistol. So if we flip this over, we'll see, we'll see something interesting. We have a gate, and there's a single locking tab right here. If we open the gate, which is actually really tight and kind of a finger bender, there we go. If we open the gate, you'll see that that tab disengages. Now, the hammer is holding the breech piece. The cylinder has been disengaged because this little locking tab is the only thing linking the breech piece to the cylinder. We can now roll the cylinder in order to load or unload our pistol. Just to see it from the rear, it looks like you'd expect for a regular gate loader. Again, this is an 1860 revolver, one that was actually purchased in small numbers by the Union. When you want to close the gun back up, you have to be careful because this can't be closed at any time. You must look for your notch, bring it into alignment with the pin that we saw earlier, at which point we can close her back up. Now, when we work the hammer or the trigger, both breech and cylinder rotate together. Even if a cartridge swells up against the breech piece, it doesn't matter because it's rotating along with the cylinder. If we want to unload or reload, we have to hold back the hammer, index till we find our little hole, ease it down, and then boom, the process starts all over again. Now, in case you're curious why there's no ejector on the gun, that's because it's actually hidden down here in our grip. Loosen your lanyard and use that guy to poke them out one by one. Just make sure you don't forget to put it back, in the middle of your, this isn't what you'd call a Marshall revolver, even though a few hundred were purchased by the Union Army. I do, however, feel that despite it being so forgotten, it's a very clever solution to the early metallic cartridge problem. And I'd consider it to be very advanced for its time. We have a wonderful grip. We have a beautiful knuckle at the back for holding the gun. The natural point on this is excellent. And of course, it's a double and single action lock work. Really, the things that are archaic about it actually have more to do with the limitations of the cartridge technology at the time than it does with the inventor's genius.